or you don't remember it either. Because sometimes people say, Alice, so what was for the quiz? Who knows? They have number of classes, various quizzes, and it's sometimes not possible to um, get to recall. So, anyways, I guess I will be refreshing your memories, anyways, and then eventually we will find it. So, I was trying to put your status as grading in terms of what you are getting right now on this class grade, and looks like everybody is doing very good, pretty much everybody. So yeah, you put it on the bright space, you can check. If it goes down, I will be updated. But at this moment, that's what you're getting. That's the grade that you will be getting on your transcript. So of course, if you stop doing anything, just do nothing, disappear, and I will, of course, start contacting you, emailing you. And well, if things happen, then just don't hesitate. Let me know. I can always postpone things like test, whatever, if you need. That's fine with me. As long as you feel comfortable and you're doing good, because our goal is to get a good grade in this class, period.
You said, Professor, that you already posted a grade?
Yes, I tried to post it on the Brightspace. It was
And where can we find it? In the
in the Brightspace. There's a Brightspace, that program that where that's the only way I can post those grades. And otherwise, if you cannot see it there, you can just ask me in class.
I can't see, I didn't receive any even notification saying that you graded me anything.
Well, I don't know what that means. I don't have a bright space for the. I'm not a student, so I'm trying to do my best, and that's why I'm saying. So if you don't know, if you can't see it, can't find it, you can always ask me when in class. And the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes students email me say, "Alex, so what is my grade?" And I cannot email it. There is a government created organization called FERPA, and they created it with one purpose: watch out for Alex not to email students grades. I have no idea why, but they had some excuse, some grandpa, angry old grandpa with a stake, somehow called college, and college said the grandson did not do well, and grandpa hit the grandson because of that. So the college was in trouble. So it's pretty crazy. So, anyways, and that's the reason why they are really serious not to have Alex, me, to email people grades. So if I email to you, they will say, Alex, why did you do it again? So, but anyways, I'm not gonna email grades. So if you want to know your grade, you can ask me here in chat. So you can just type, Alex, what is my grade? And I will reply, because this is online class. We don't have other ways to communicate, but by email or by chat. So I can always tell you what your grade is in chat, because I always have your grades with me. I don't have a problem to tell it to you. And I'm doing my best trying to share it with you, and that way I will be uh, posting it on the Brightspace. So I hope if you able to see the Brightspace, just let me know. Were you able to see a grade? Because last semester it was fine, but looks like this semester, or whatever you do with deal with online classes, the only thing you need to do is be patient. That's the idea. Because sometimes people say, Alice, I didn't get my grade emailed to me or something else. Yes, that's what makes it different in online classes. But eventually, once you learn how to see the bright space, and you would be able to check your grade at any time. So it's worth it. But it will take you a little bit of time to be spent. Maybe you can try to ask someone in college who knows how to use a Brightspace to help you. And once you learn how to get there and how to check your grade, you can always do it at any time. So I think it's worth it. So anyways, that's the point. So now I'm gonna continue with refreshing your memories on the stuff we started doing last time. And we had a couple of definitions. So one of them was dealing with definition of end. So that's in logic, so-called quantifier end. So if you have P and Q, so let me try to get a nice little diagram for you here. Not sure why I do this mesh, but anyways, maybe I should not do it. But anyways, P and Q. Definitions that we saw last time, you absolutely need to have handy. So 4 possibilities. 2 T's, 1 T, the other is F, or first could be F, the other is T. And turns out all the definitions that we're going to see will be about this kind. And then finally, both F's. So these 4 possibilities. And what varies is the last column. So in definition for P and Q, the only case when it is true is when both are true. So the rest will be F's. F, and so forth. So that's one definition we saw. So the key idea is the last column, if you remember. So it's worth to realize how you should read it. Otherwise, of course, you look at this bunch of T's, F's, wondering what is going on? What is that, Alice? You're trying to confuse us? No, it turns out that's probably the best way to write things down, and that's how the textbook also uses, and not just this textbook, any textbook whatsoever. I know you probably don't have access to the textbook, but if you will get any other textbook that has logic part in it, it will also have so-called truth tables. And that's what I'm about to produce now for the P or Q. P or Q. So this is another definition. And with P or Q, the only case when it's false, it's when both are false. Otherwise, it is true. Not hard to remember, but always worth to write it down. And that's what I just did. So let us do another exercise to see what's happening here. Yeah, you're very, very welcome. I'm also monitoring chat. Sometimes, again, it takes a little longer for me to see things if you put something in chat. Well, again, that's the negative part of online classes, because you need to be patient, because when you're in face-to-face class, you ask the question, well, you get the answer right away. Sometimes the instructor, like myself, does not see your question right away, so it might take a little time, or you might remind instructor, which is another thing to do. So anyways, let's try to do one of these exercises. Let's say if I try to put a 12, not P, then Q. So now I need to decide, write it down, 12. So what will be the answer if we take not P or Q? So is this correct or incorrect? Is this true or false? And of course, the answer to the question is, what is not P? Is that true or is that false? So they should give it to you in the beginning of this. And that's what we utilized last time. Remember, I had to notice that P was true, 4 plus 6 was 10, and Q was false. 5 times 8 was not 80. So it is false. So now what about what we have here? Not P. Well, if you
Not P false.
negate your truth, indeed it'd be false. Very good. And then I will be utilizing this not P, which is false as we just,
False.
or
Result is false.
false. Uh-huh. False, exactly. That's the last row of this table. When one is false, the other is also false. What comes out is P or Q is also false. And good to realize that they don't have to have name P and Q. They sometimes give name R, or we could call it any possible ways, so they can they can give you statements, capital A, capital B, sometimes other letters. But in the textbook we have here, we have also preference to P and Q. But again, it doesn't have to be. So in exercise number 17, they say complete the truth tables. So they don't want you to just find one answer like we did in the previous exercises. Now they want you to get two answers. So one answer will be here and the other will be here. So we need to complete the table. And they're actually, in the first one, we have two answers. And then in the second, we have to put another answer. So they say required columns. So what do they want really here? Well, they want to not P and Q. So it looks like not P and Q is the column here. Oh, sorry. They want you to just fill these two pieces. But in order to fill these two pieces, I need to utilize the second column for help. Okay, so I just work with what I'm given, and if it's P, then what will be not P?
False.
Exactly, opposite, right? So I just decided by looking at P, what is not P is. And analogously, let's say I can start on the second row and see if it's false for P. What about not P? What about not false? Well, the
True.
is true. Exactly. So this not thing. So what is this wiggly thing with that part? Is it means not. So this is negation. So not P is here. All right. So now I need to look at this last entry. And the last entry is telling about not P and P. Not P and P. So now we're back to our definition number one here. So we need to put, instead of not P, what's in definition number one? Well, it looks like for not P, the first one will give me false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I say, Alex, but how could you use that one? Because this is a Q. We don't care what names of those are. All we care is we entered F for the first, and what do we enter for P here? Oh, looks like it is T, correct?
T.
So we have F and T. F and,
Result is F.
yeah, the result is F. And where is that? Well, this is the third row in this table. Say, well, Alex, but this is P and Q, and you have not P and P. Well, that's the skill that we're learning to use tables. So we don't care what we have here in the first and what's in the second. We care if it's false or true and false or true. So false and true will spit out from the table row 3 false. False and true. And that's what I try to make sure that you realize. That's important to realize that's thing. And when you know how to, why this is really coming out to be F, why I put F here, you will know how to do any exercise because they're all the same. So here I look at F and T. No, what I'm looking is at not F and not P. So in this case, it's different. In the second case, we're no longer using the result of previous, but we need to come up with the new ones. So what is not P and P gonna be in the case if P is false? So it looks like instead of P, I have to use F. So once again, I return back to my table and looking at the second row. So not P and P. P is F, not P is T. So I just copied that exactly. So now I'm trying to see what T and F give me. You see? And T and F is going to be my second row in here. And of course, this is going to be false because we as a result utilizing the same exact definition, and the only case when it is true will be when they both are true. Otherwise, we have false, and the whole thing is false. So we have both F's. So please check this out again. Maybe before next time be a good idea if you don't feel comfortable with this, and I will do another, of course. Because this skill, once you possess it, you just do all exercises same way. But you really want to slow down and make sure you understand why we're producing this exactly the way we produced it. So now here's exercise. Let me do 19. I need to get a little bit of room. Because technically we keep doing the same thing, but again and again and again. So at this stage, I could stop with the exercises, but what we're going to do otherwise, right? Move on to the next section. Well, let me do one more. You see, they get it a little bit more stages, but it's really keep doing the same thing. So now P and Q, but now I need to find what's not P is. And to figure that out, I need to write down, utilize basically my first column. So whatever is in the first column, I need to negate. So there are two T's, so they become two F's. It's not T is F, right? And also two F's, they turn into two T's. So I didn't use anything but first column. I say, why Alex? Well, I couldn't use second column because there's not P there, nothing to do with Q. In fact, now I'm going to use the second column because now what I need is to use my not P that stands here and Q. So what I need to do is use not P. Let me write it separately so we don't hurt. And Q, right? So some people can say, Alex, I just hear about only the case when they both are T's. And I don't see, oh, they both are T's here, so that'd be T. But let's not do it in a hurry. So you could just say, oh, this is T and the others are false. But according to the definition, please notice we're using the and, which means we have to use definition number one. I call it number one. So for the and case, you say, Alex, what are you doing? You're making a mess. Yeah, don't make a mess, otherwise it's kind of messy. Fix that mess, make it nice. So P and Q. Okay. So instead of first place, I use my what? T, right? Or not P. What do I use instead of first place? Well, whatever is in the first position. That's F. Say, Alex, why F? Well, right now I'm trying to produce the first entry of this first last column, so to get the answer. And this entry has not P. So not P is here, and not P is F. So I put down F. Okay, and Q. So what's on the second place in Q?
True.
True.
T.
Exactly. So now I use the F on the first and T on the second. So now I'm looking at
It's
N,
false.
which is third row, and you're absolutely correct. It's false. Just like that. If you understood how I produced that one, the others are all identical. Just little difference in P or Q, whatever they have. Like, for example, for the next one, again, what is not P? Well, not P is still the same thing. Not P is still false. So I just done with this. So I start over again. And now I need to use E and Q. And say, what is Q here? It is F. I say, Alex, it was T before, but now why is it F? Well, because that's a next case when we have T and F. The first was T and T. Now it's T and F. Next will be different. So they change, but we don't care. We have F and F, so that's our last.
F.
It is still F.
F.
Yeah, exactly. That's false. I say, Alex, who put T here? Why did you put T? Well, look at them. Not P. So once again, I clear that out. Now I'll look at the third row. And I'm again starting with not P, and then I need Q. So what is not P? Well,
True.
it happened to be true. They say, why, Alex? Why is it true? Well, at this stage, we don't care, but I'll tell you. So at this stage, we'll just finish. So not P is T, okay, and Q. So what's for Q?
True.
It's not true. So that's the only case when T comes out, right? When both are true, that's our first row. The result is true, true. That gives me true. That's why I put true. And the last one is what? Well, again, what is not P? It's here for the last one. It is going to be true. And what's the Q? Because it's not P again, and Q. So what's the Q? Well, it happens to be false. And we are looking at the second row now because it's T on the first, F on the second, and what comes out is false. So it is false. So I put false. I say, Alex, who told you that these are ones previous? What is going on? Well, please notice the beginning of each table is identical. If you have two quantifiers, P and also Q, then you start with TT, TF, FT, FF. That's always for all of the exercises. We also have it in the definitions. We also have it here because we need to go over all four possibilities. First possibility, second, third, and fourth. That's the reason. Yes, you can switch them around, but then you'll just start to confuse yourself. That's why it's a good idea is to realize first two T's, then T and F, just like in the definitions. So that way you will have less chance to get mixed up and to produce a little silly mistake. You want to do it right. You don't want to confuse yourself. So please notice there is a whole bunch of truth tables they want to fill, and they getting longer. They're not getting harder, they're getting longer. Let me do 22 and move on because we can be stuck with them forever and ever and just keep doing pretty much the same thing. And this, I guess, fun, kinda, if you have nothing else to do over the long and rainy weekend, but I guess it's pointless. So if you know how to do one of them, you can do the rest. That's what I'm trying to make sure that you believe, start to believe, and to actually realize. And once you start to realize they're all same exercises, but just maybe a little longer, then it is going to be much better. So again, please notice that the start is always the same. Both T's, then first T is F, second, and then you get both F's. So first is FT, second is FF. So standard. And looks like analogously to the previous exercise, now you need to get not Q. So I don't use P, I use now not Q. I say, Alex, you use not P there, and now why do you use not Q? Well, because they prepared it for you, and the reason they prepared is, look at what they want. They want an end result in here. That's what their goal is. So to produce the end result, they want you to produce the stuff what's in the parentheses first, and then you're gonna, on the last step, negate it. So parentheses. So that's the previous step. And then what's in the parentheses? Well, parentheses has P, so we already know what P is. And it also has not Q. You see, we don't have not Q. We have P and Q. That's why we need not Q. And that's why I'm looking at whatever's in Q, whatever's in the second column, and put the opposite. So for T, I put F. For F, I put T. So I'm just looking at this second column. So the point is I need to get used to what to look at. So when I know where I'm looking at, right now I'm looking at Q because I'm trying to get not Q. It has nothing to do with P, so I don't need these. I just need to put opposites of the second column, and that's what I did. And now once I put the opposites, I don't need it to be crossed out. Now I use something else. And what else do I use? Well, now I'm using my table number 2 because we need to deal with OR, right? P or Q. So look at this table again, please. The only case when we get fail, when both of them are fail, when both are false. And now I'm going to be utilizing P, which is my first, right? And also I'll be utilizing not Q, which is my second. So I no longer care about Q because I just need not Q. So how to get it quicker? Again, when are they both are false? They both are false here in the second and the third row, right? In the third row, we have F and also F. Otherwise, there is a T, 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 F, F, T, so there is some true present. So the only case when we spit out F will be third row. And otherwise, I get them all T. So I guess that's a quick way to get it done, right? Because that way you don't have to go through the pain every single step. It's annoying. And now that's it. You don't care for the previous rows. You just look at the new row that is produced because what you need to do is to negate it. You see what we're doing with this? We put it in the parentheses and negate it. So do the opposite. So for T, I put F here, here, as well as in the last place, right? And for F, I put T. And that's the answer. It's not very hard. I would say the observation that only F we have is when both are F's is very helpful. It saves time. And that's great. So we're not going to abandon this story. Don't worry. Notice there is lots of these things and PQ. Now they introduce also R, but it just creates more mess. And that's the thing. Maybe I can do one with R's to show you that mess. In fact, here's in the beginning of this story. They have 8 choices that appear when you introduce Army Bill. Look at the pictures because they have nicer pictures that I can do. I'm always jealous to their pictures. That's why I always want to enjoy their examples. And looks like I don't have much here, so maybe previous page. See, I also need to get used to this. use of, okay, R. Okay. So let's show you bigger tables that also have three quantifiers, not just P and Q, but also P, Q, and R. Just to show it to you once. I don't want to get stuck with this because you can also put P, Q, R, and T, and then R, T, and S, and so forth. Look at it with P, Q, and R. I say, oh, Alice, what is this? It's the same story, same thing. But now once you have R, please notice that your table P and Q is here. And that happens when R is true. So PQ. And then they repeat, actually, they didn't write it nicely. So anyways, notice that P could be, let me do it like that. So for P, for Q, and for R. So the way they want it to be is, first of all, try Q and R to be TT, TF, FT, and F. Say, why is that? Well, we just did it with P and Q. Now it's Q and R. So what? So it's the same story that we had for the beginning, here or there. So notice they have exact same thing. I just wasn't careful. I didn't highlight it nicely. So and then notice this is exactly the same copy here. Right? But the first one goes with P being true. So when P is true, this story is present. And then when P is false, so there's four possibilities for Q and R appear. So it is just tedious, but you're not really doing any critical thinking, I think, here. Just copy that same table again. TT, TF, let's see, FT, and FF. So that's the beginning of every single exercise when you're dealing with P, Q, and R, with three of them. I say, so Alex, what happens when I deal with four? Well, there is going to be T, usually T or S they put. Well, then the same thing will be with T being true, and then the exact same thing will be with T being false. So it'll be 8 and 816. So it's a waste of time. But anyways, let me trace this. For example, why here? Let me try. I'll double check that one. So what's P and Q? P and Q. Well, look at that. We have P, we have Q. So I don't care for R right now because I care for P and Q, right? So P and Q. P and Q, so false and truth. Is that false? Yes, because false and truth is here. The third row, FT, what's coming out as false. All right. Then what? Well, then I need to utilize this one for F, right? P and Q. So we're in P and Q. And the second is R. So what is R? Well, what was R? T. Right? So that's what we're using now for that. So, okay. So the two of them we are using, and now we need to see where I'm gonna look at in the table and what table, and I'm looking at the table with OR. So I'm looking with table as with OR, and I'm looking at it here in the third row. Why? Because first is F, second is T. First is F, second is T. So what's coming out? T. Yes, And that's what they put down here. So I guess that's the idea. But anyways, I know, I understand it is tedious. That's why I don't want to get deeply into it. My goal was to show it to you once. It's good enough because I will say just tables with two of them is fine because then you can just be stuck and do more and more and more and more. And what's the point? You just get to enjoy it. So let me see where we stopped. I think we were in the next, right? In 152. Okay, that's where we were last time. So now I want to move on. So I shown you three quantifier stuff, and I told you that you should not really worry, but at least you saw it. So if you really need to do it, then well, you will be able to. So now here's another definition. Turns out there is a variety of definitions. So what's the definitions we had so far? Well, we had two of them. One is here P and Q, the other is P or Q, right? But it turns out that there could be some other definitions, and here comes the third definition. So let me write it down, and that's so-called logical implication. It says from P follows Q. So what does that mean? Well, from P, let's say here they put cases. Case 1 says you do not pass the final and you don't pass the class. Okay. Pencil. If you do not pass the final, so do not pass the final, then you do not pass the class. So you didn't pass the final, well, then what? You didn't pass the class. I say, well, not Alex in your case, because your final will worse only 20% or 30% of the course, so you can still have 70%. Yes. So it's not always the case. So it's not always work, but sometimes it does, and that's the point. So usually, if you don't pass the final, means you don't pass the class. So look at the new definition. I don't know if that's a really good example, but maybe something simpler. If you do not open the door, you cannot get in the room. That's probably more straightforward, right? You need to open the door, then you can get to the room. Door is closed, cannot go to the room. So door is closed, so you open the door, go inside if you want to, of course, but you need to open the door. So that's probably the case. So P and Q. Careful, I need to write down Q, not P, because otherwise it's pointless. So erase this. Yeah, so PQ. So we're producing definition for so-called implication. P implies Q. And to start, we do exact same start. TT, right? TF, TF, FT, TFF. So this is FF. So what's the difference? Well, now we're gonna have the last column that is not the same. So in the last column, the only F is here. When The last column says from true, false is not false. So you make a correct statement, then if you produced a wrong conclusion, you're incorrect. So you have a true statement, something correct. From the correct statement, you must get correct conclusion. So logically speaking, you can think of it, it's pretty straightforward. So once you're correct, well, then you make incorrect conclusion. But you can make a, right, so false is not gonna follow. But otherwise, you can always come up with the true statement. So if both of them correct, then you're producing the correct conclusion. Yes, that's absolutely correct. If you start with false, with a wrong statement, you can produce just about anything. So if you started wrong, you can end up with either true or false using logic, but you started wrong, then you can get whatever. And that will be correct way to do it. And that's sometimes people start to question, they kind of wonder, yeah, they say, I understand if it's a correct statement, then I produce correct conclusion, that's true. But how come I started the wrong statement and I produced true conclusion correctly? Well, or from the wrong statement, I can produce a wrong conclusion, and that's also going to be correct. So why is this working? Sometimes people not sure about that. And that's why I'm saying it's a definition. That's a definition. That's the point of story. So in definition, we have new part, new table, and to me, I don't really care. I just use this table for the exercises, and that's it. So let me look at the exercises that utilize this P, then Q, and let's say construct the truth table for that one. Not P, then not Q. So please notice that we just need to start out the same exact way as before. This is going to be a little bit longer. What way do we start? Well, we start with P and Q and 4 possibilities. TT, TF. So standard start, right? And also we go TT, FF, no, sorry, FT and then FF. Okay, that's better. So that's standard start, right? Those 4. So then what? Well, then I need to produce not Q, and then I need to produce not P, right? So that's what I need. So I need to have not Q. That's one thing I don't have here. The other thing I don't have here is not P. You see, I put this ingredients first. And finally, what I need is from not P, then not Q. It's not going to be very hard because for not Q, I just take second column, so I don't care for first one, right? I just care for not Q. So and I'm gonna put opposites to what I see there. So opposite to T is F, opposite to F is T. So a little by little. Don't hurry, just one step at a time. So I just negated, I made the opposites to my second column and put them down. And this is great. So now I no longer need this to be crossed. I need to now cross out my column number 2 because now I need not P, right? So I don't care for this and I don't care for that. I just care for first column to be negated and put the opposites to it with the in the fourth place. So for T I put F, you see, there's T, put F. That's all I see here. first column entry, T, I put F, all right. Then what? Two Fs, so the opposites, two T's. And that's great. I'm almost there. Now I'm gonna use my new stuff. Now I'm gonna use my definition. So now all I care about is the place number 3 and then place number 4. So how do I use them? Well, now I should be careful because I'm using something new. So now I'm going to be looking at the table that we have here. And again, all I care is if they're both T's, I get T. If one T is the other is F, first T, second F, then I have F. So everywhere is T. When do I get F? First is T, second is F. So what are the first and the second? Notice I wrote them in the opposite order, and that's something I should be very careful with, because now I look at
Excuse me, Professor, before you start, the last row, the last column, you
last,
change the order of the letters. It should be not
yes,
Q, then not P.
yes,
You said not P, then not Q.
you're absolutely correct. And that's why I'm saying I need to be careful now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't truly matter, turns out. So not P is here. And again, what I care about is to use this two columns, right? Not P, then not Q, and to see when I have the only possibility, which is F. So my first entry must be T, second must be F. So how many I have first entries that are T here, right? I say, Alex, that's you're not P in the first place when it is T. It's only here. I say, no, it's also here. Yes. So let's see what happens when one is T. The second is not Q, which is F. So it looks like it goes now backwards, right? So it looks like the only one that I have that is false when first is T, the second is F. Notice that here my T and F switch directions. So T first, second is here. So that's my only F. Because the next one is T, but true is here. So they're both T. So they're fine. The result is going to be T. So I found the only F here, and the rest will be T. That's worth to think. I say, oh, well, that's something new. Yeah, it is new, but I purposely, or maybe not purposely, wrote it like that. So technically, if you want, you can switch these two columns. You can put F, F, T, and T. So what am I doing? I'm copying. I'm copying this F, F, T, and T, and next to them, F, T, F, T, F, T, F, T. So maybe that way it'll be better if you want to. Can do it. Because we're working right now with them, right? So the only case when we have false is when the first one is T, second is F. That's the, and that's why it is false from definition, right? So second row. And the others, FT, ST, FF, the first one, ST. So I just use definition. I don't really think hard. I just copy. TT, that's my first one. It's T. So everything else is true, but the only one which is false is first T, second F. Just like that. How about that? Interesting, right? Say, Alex, I'm getting kind of tired of that. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to give you a quiz today. I know it's Monday and everything is like that. So we can check and see what else is here just for the future. Turns out there are going to be 2 more definitions that will be looked at next time, because look at this. There's more of these involved, not P than Q, so there's more steps. And now we have and I think they prove one more thing here. See, they start to get longer statements and so forth, and it all depends. When you say, what is this? How can I possibly read this? Well, the point of the story, you need to know what is this T, and then you start to get all the others attached to it. So that's why I don't think you want to look at all of them, because it's going to be just giving you more and more stuff that is not what you probably want to be stuck with. That's something we did today already. P and then not P, and we had both results are false. So anyways, so it looks like we pretty much discussed this whole story in here. I just want to see what's next and leave it like that for next time. So we'll start from that stage. So, and again, so maybe that's the one that I will start with next time. Okay. Biconditional. So that'd be the new stuff. So turns out P then Q, Q then P means that you can go both ways. So I think that'd be a good thing to do next time. So anyways, it might be, one might start to get feeling that we just over and overwhelming with all that, and promising I'm going to look at biconditional next time, and then we'll move on to some other stuff, because it is indeed getting a little bit overwhelming, right? So anyways, I'm going to stop to share. I'm going to stop recording first of all, and that way I'll let you go without a quiz today, and we'll have one next time, right? Next time we'll have a quiz. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to